Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Radio Gorepress. I'm Sarah. I nearly said as always. Obviously I'm always Sarah.
Yeah, you're always Sarah.
This week I'm Phil. Joining me is my lovely co-host Sarah. How are you, Sarah?
I haven't slept enough to cope with this, Sarah. Sorry, Phil.
Oh, we're off to a great start. How are you doing, Pip?
Yeah, I'm fine. Started my new job last week, which is very exciting. Met them in person today. Had some very COVID safe drinks in a pub.
Meeting co-workers in person is very novel these days.
I know.
Very 2020 pre-March.
Yep. We've got a big kind of social event, company-wide social event going on mid-September. So I thought meeting in the pub would be a good, low-pressure way of actually getting to know some of them. So yeah, that was my evening before coming to speak to you about this film today. How are you?
I'm all right. I don't really like meeting people, but if you have to do it, I guess the best place to do it is the pub.
Yep.
So I endorse that, and I'm very glad it went well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Spoke a bit about community, spoke a bit about D&D. All promising.
You found your people, it sounds.
Seems like it, doesn't it?
No, that's great. I'm very happy. How am I? I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'm all right. Yeah. The hits keep on coming.
They don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop
coming.
And they don't stop.
Don't you dare. Don't make me rage quit 2 minutes in. It's been a strange old time, hasn't it? And things keep going wrong. It's kind of amazing to me how many things, completely aside from the pandemic, have managed to go wrong in the last year and a half. And I keep thinking, there's going to be a break soon. No. But somehow I've still got a smile on my face, which is the main thing, isn't it?
Good. Yeah, that's the important thing. And there's a lot to be said for that as well, I think.
Yeah, toxic positivity can get in the bin, but some healthy optimism.
Yeah, and I think, but if you're maybe not genuinely happy, but if the smile is genuine and you are staying strong and staying positive, I think that's good. It's commendable.
I think that's the best any of us can do at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I think getting through another day is the best we can hope for sometimes. And that's to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Little victories, innit?
Life's hard, man.
Right? Can we get that on merch? Life's hard, man. Phil, 2021. Never a truer word was spoken.
Truly a philosopher of our time.
You are the Descartes of Radio Gorepress.
The Socrates of...
We should just retire on that. That's it. We've fulfilled our purpose.
Life is hard, man. Socrates. Phil.
I see what you did there. I got the Office reference.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky. Michael Scott. So... I really enjoyed talking about Donnie Darko last week.
Yes, I did too.
Far more than I expected to.
I can tell where this is going to go.
You know where this preamble leads. And because we are minus a Rosie again, you may have noticed, she's not just very quiet, she's not here. She is still recuperating, but will be back with us before you know it.
Yeah.
However... last week was a little bit taxing on the old noggins.
And the week before the episode before that too.
Actually, yeah. Good point. So we are overdue a silly episode where we give ourselves a bit of a break, bit of a breather. There wasn't a great deal of research to do this week. We didn't have to look up theories to figure out if we understood the film. Time travel is not even mentioned once. It's glorious. So yeah, we did what we usually do when we are kind of grasping for a film to watch, and that's turn to streaming platforms and go, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it got to a point where it was just like, fuck it, I am making an executive decision, Philip. Let's cover...
I said I'd be happy for you to take that decision.
You did. Well, we were going to do The Omen, which would not have been a break, if we're being honest. I would still like to cover that at some point. But yeah, I browsed Amazon Prime for a few minutes and stumbled on...
That's all it took.
Mere moments before I found 1986's Body Count. Which is a film I was aware of.
Okay.
Because it's a film I bought.
Okay.
A few months ago.
Okay. Wasn't like one of those kind of films that you buy and it just sits in your kind of cabinet for years on end, still in the kind of cellophane.
Oh, yes, but the timescale is smaller. Exactly that.
But months is understandable. Years less so. True.
I do still have films in the cellophane that I haven't watched for a very long time. Anyway, when I'm done outing myself as some sort of movie poser. So after we covered Cannibal Holocaust, terrible experience, wonderful recording experience, however, I kind of delved a little bit more into Ruggero Deodato and his back catalogue. And I'd seen a couple of his films, and there was one called Body Count, and I was like, oh, never heard of that. And in the same week, one of my friends sent me a message saying, have you seen Body Count? You'd love it. So I was like, well, this is fate. This is the universe telling me, get hold of this film. However, it's not available anywhere. There has never been a DVD or Blu-ray in the UK or the US.
Oh, really?
It just seems to be like a lost film. It's really strange. So I managed to get hold of a German DVD on eBay. And then it popped up on Prime after I'd spent good money. A month later, I saw it for free on streaming, which is probably a good thing because it turns out I couldn't play the German DVD. So what I've got is a paperweight. Or if you take it out of the case, a mirror.
Or if you take the cover off, a blank DVD case.
I mean, less useful, but yeah.
Throw away the disc.
Yeah, a multifunctional object that I needn't have bought. But here we are. We found it. We watched it. I've got some thoughts. Do you have some thoughts?
I have some thoughts.
I thought you might. Firstly, do we have a synopsis?
Well, if you've got the German DVD, I think you do.
I've got a synopsis, but I don't think you'll want mine.
I definitely do, Sarah.
Acht Jugendlich planen einen vergnüglichen Kurzallaub in den Walden Colorados. I'm done. I taught German.
Colorado.
I taught German for 5 years. I am deeply ashamed. I have shamed my people. My people aren't German, don't worry. I don't know why I said that. I don't know who my people are, other than weirdos.
I think that's enough, to be honest.
I have shamed my fellow weirdos.
I've got a plot that's in English, if that helps.
That would be far better than whatever I just said, yeah. Please.
A gang of vacationing teenagers drive out to an abandoned campsite that was shut down years before due to the murder of a young couple that occurred there. The area was formerly an old Indian burial ground and is believed to be haunted by the spirit of an Indian shaman. One by one, the kids are killed off in gruesome ways, whom they believe to be the Indian shaman returned to life.
Do you say shaman?
A shaman, I've never... It's one of those words that I've read far more times than I've spoken aloud. And so I flip between shaman and shaman depending on how I'm feeling.
What I do know is that every time anybody in this film said the word shaman, my brain was just like, easy good. Can you believe nobody knew that song was about drugs?
Really?
Mental.
I feel that whoever edited this Wikipedia article needs to take English lessons.
Maybe they were German. Maybe they translated it directly from the German DVD.
One by one, the kids are killed off in gruesome ways, whom they believe to be the Indian shaman returned to life.
Wait, what? That's
what it says.
How did I not even clock that when you said it the first time? That's awful.
I was reading through it and I was like, that's not right at all.
That's 2 sentences jammed together. What the hell?
By a figure whom they believe to be the Indian, right? That's how it should read.
Well, there you go. You were just supposed to read between the lines.
Yeah,
so it's on you, Phil.
Can you imagine if that's how English worked? You just have to
every other word is missing.
And you need to extrapolate the meaning. Nightmare.
Depends who you're talking to. Sometimes that is how it works.
It'd be certainly quicker to talk to people, I suppose. Half as many words. Means the conversation is over half as quickly.
Succinct.
Or twice as quickly.
So I had, I did what I normally do, and I had a quick look on Letterboxd and on IMDb before I watched this.
Okay.
Because it looks shit. Let's be honest. It's not great. However, there is a lot of love for this film, which really surprised me. Not least because it seems so hard to get hold of.
Yeah, I mean that is quite. I mean, it's got on Letterboxd certainly the highest sort of average is 2.5 out of 5,
which is nuts. This is a below average film.
This is 100% a below average film.
Spoiler alert: it's not good. Which is not the same as I didn't enjoy it. It should be said.
Interesting.
Oh, you know me. You know me and slashers.
I do. And you know me and slashers, to be fair.
I do. If it's predictable and people get stabbed, I'll probably find something to like. Especially with David Hess.
Yep.
And bad dubbing. I mean, this had me written all over it, really. So, I started making notes.
Yep.
As the credits rolled. It took less than a minute. I've never seen her in anything else, but there is an actress in this film called Mimsy Farmer.
My first note reads, Mimsy Farmer isn't a name.
My first note says, Mimsy Farmer, deeply unpleasant job title.
She's a Mimsy Farmer.
What does that involve?
I don't want to know.
I don't know, but I don't like it. Who calls their kid Mimsy?
Well, apparently, so I did actually look that up. It was a stage name that she sort of took on.
Oh, you don't say?
Yeah. From
It's not I christened this child Mimsy. Hey, Dave, no, that means vagina. Maybe change it to something else. Yeah, I didn't think that's how the christening went.
You're the one that said who names their child Mimsy, despite knowing the fact that it was a stage name.
I guarantee somebody in the world has named their child Mimsy.
Probably. But it was in reference to the Jabberwocky.
Was it really? Oh, I like it now.
all Mimsy were the Borogroves.
Right, I've done a complete 180 in mere seconds.
I'm still not keen on Mimsy Farmer.
The 2 words combined I can do without. Mimsy, I'm all right with. Oh no, is that where the slang comes from as well then?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it that far.
What is a Mimsy in the context of the Jabberwocky?
It's an adjective, presumably.
Mimsy.
All Mimsy were the Borogroves, as in it's describing the Borogroves as Mimsy, right?
Oh, right. Oh, I don't know. What do I look like? An English teacher? Sometimes, yes. Is the answer to that. So the second name I clocked was David Hess. Mm-hmm. And my only note in conjunction with that was hopefully he didn't do the soundtrack. No.
Had to be done. That's the only thing I remember from that film. Which says a lot.
Maybe that's for the best. Do you know what? I have a lot of love for Last House on the Left. And it's probably the film that I saw David Hess in, like before anything else, because he has worked with Deodato before.
Okay.
He was in. Oh no! I should really know the title because it's one that we talked about in the Cannibal Holocaust show.
Oh,
I want to say
really?
The House on the Edge of the Park.
That sounds familiar.
But there are so many titles that are just like The House in the Middle of the Street or The House at the End of the Street.
Our house in the middle of the street.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you make this about Scar.
We'll come back to skanking later,
already.
guys.
Oh no. The third note that I made before the film even started was I'm into the credits music. What a bop.
Yeah. Soundtrack
And I
wasn't
stand
bad,
by
was
it.
it? A lot of cool like synthy 80s stuff going on.
Well, I found out later,
Okay.
and this will surprise approximately nobody. Apparently the score was Claudio Simonetti of Goblin.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, kill surprise.
Sarah likes a Goblin soundtrack.
No. F-tunes. Oh, right. Go on, you take the reins for
Oh, God,
a bit. I'm
really?
losing my
That's
mind.
a terrible idea.
Well, so we open to a high school gym. The bleachers are empty, and yet there are very loud crowd sounds, which confused me greatly.
Is it me, or is that whole opening section entirely unnecessary?
100% unnecessary.
I was like, oh, these are the characters we'll get to know throughout the entire movie, and it's just like introducing to these characters and their relationships and like subplots that are about to start, and then within 10 minutes, smash cut to 15 years later, and then these characters are never mentioned again. I'm like, wait, that was that was precious brain space that was being taken up trying to remember who these people were.
I agree, but I think in the context of a slasher movie, that's such a blueprint, isn't it?
Yeah, I see that. It just felt very
pointless.
Well, yes, but that too. But the actual like amount of information there, it wasn't just like, oh, here's random people that you shouldn't really care about because all they were doing now is setting up the actual like killer. It was an actual, here are characters, here are their relationships, here's what's going on. Like, I thought that was the film. I didn't feel like an intro. It felt like the actual film with the actual characters that we'd follow.
Oh, same. And I was not. A lot of them look really similar in this film,
right.
So it wasn't even immediately obvious that they weren't the same people for a little while. Maybe I should have been paying closer attention. Who knows? Also, the relationships between some of the characters were really ambiguous. I don't know. Like, there was one girl who was talking to the guy who I believe is the doctor.
Okay. Who
appears later on and does doctory things. He's always wearing a stethoscope.
I must be a doctor then.
So he looks really official. I know that much.
That's on his forehead.
Yeah. For reasons. What are they for?
Looking at things.
But like, why would you have a mirror on your forehead? The person you're treating doesn't want to see themselves, surely. That's bizarre.
Is it even a mirror? I've never seen one in actual real life. It's just one of those like stereotypes that you see in cartoons. Could be a light.
It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, she turns around to him and says, "Thanks, Daddy." And I was just like,
oh yeah.
In what context? Because they look the same age.
Yeah.
Is this a kink thing, or is he actually her father? I'm still unsure.
I mean, I figured the whole. I don't know. It didn't strike me as of the time the kind of like daddy kink. I took that for literally, as it were.
I think it was literally. I'm just being facetious.
Oh really?
Get used to that. That's going to be a regular occurrence during this show. Yeah, but I think because it is him later on in the film, because he has that big diatribe about, oh, my daughter, when they're talking about the killer, the shaman, The killer? Who knows? I don't fucking know.
You care?
Wacko in a mask. I don't care enough to find out.
Right.
It's one of those. And also, Dr. Olsen, that was his name.
Okay.
Because there was a line where somebody wasn't feeling well, and somebody was like, "Oh, you're like a zombie. Have Dr. Olsen take a look at you." What, does he diagnose zombies? Is that his specialty? Zombie PhD? I don't know. What would that... Surely that's just dead.
I mean...
Yes, you're dead. That's
There's
like...
not a lot... Yeah, I mean, like, is your heart beating? No. Are you moving around? Yes. You don't necessarily need to see a doctor about that, do you?
Being able to diagnose death is like the most perfunctory purpose
Like,
of a doctor, surely.
Just buy a stethoscope and do it yourself.
Yeah, I didn't spend 7 years in doctor school. I'm pretty sure I could diagnose a dead dude. I mean, don't take my word on it, but pretty sure. Also, another note that I made quite quickly was, this was made in the olden days because it's square.
The olden days. 4:3.
4:3 ratio still throws me. I think primarily because this year I've watched a lot of much newer films. I've been purposely trying to watch a lot of films that I haven't seen before, so most of them are newer. So whenever I watch something that's like pre-90s, late 90s at that, it throws me. And I forget how relatively recent that change happened.
I think that's the thing. Like, our generation has just accepted part of changes just being part of life.
Yeah.
Within the next couple of years, everything's going to be a bit different and a bit better.
I don't know if I've accepted that. I very much like things to stay the same.
Yeah. Fair. Very fair.
But yeah, I don't know, it weirds me out sometimes. It wigs me out. It's like, why are there bars at the sides? I don't understand. Also, can we talk about some of the characterization in this film?
Yes.
My biggest blind spot in films is character names, so you're going to have to help me out throughout this.
Terrible idea.
You've got a better idea than me. There's a Ben. I know there is a Ben.
Ben was the army guy.
Did they know him? Sorry.
I don't think so, no. I think they pulled over in their RV, saw him, right. Were like, yeah, come with us. And he was like, right. Okay.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves,
okay.
Phil.
You're the one, Sarah.
We don't want to burn through this and confuse people. Jesus, this is a very meticulously plotted film.
And there's only an hour and 23 minutes of it as well, so we've only got limited ground to cover.
Careful. So, after the opening, where all of these characters are established and then done away with, apart from Dr. Olsen. Oh, wait, no, 2 names.
There we go.
Yeah, it kind of opens on this cabin in the woods-esque group of kids, in parentheses.
Yeah.
30-year-olds in an RV who are driving along, none of whom seem to like one another. Yet they're still going on holiday together. Explain that dynamic to me, please.
And they insist they're friends, right?
But what? It's not even specific to this film. That's such a trope.
It is, yeah.
None of these people would be buds in real life. Why are they going on holiday together? It seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Even without a killer shaman.
I've just never understood that logic, because obviously if you're going to... People watch slashers to watch the characters die. Like, that's part of the enjoyment, right? So it would make sense to write characters who are dislikable to make their deaths more enjoyable. But I just don't... I've never seen that logic. Well, I understand it, but I've just never got it. Because I don't want to sit myself through 45 minutes, an hour of watching characters that I don't like, doing things that I don't like, just for the sake of the payoff in the quarter an hour at the end,
That's absolutely fair. And also I think there are other ways to do it. Like, you can make your characters they don't have to be odious.
Yeah.
And there doesn't have to be constant arguing or bickering on screen to make the deaths satisfying.
Of course, yeah.
I think there are definitely other ways to do it. And I don't know if that's sort of the mark of, like, a less seasoned writer. I don't know.
Maybe just less skilled. Obviously,
Less skilled,
they're
yeah.
often one and the same, but this is the thing. It's a thing I apply to most slashers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I have always liked Nightmare on Elm Street far more than Halloween or Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Me too. It's way more inventive.
Big three, yeah. But that's the thing, because it's got to be enjoyable for the audience to watch, right? And so, if your characters are archetypes that don't seem to have any purpose other than providing fodder for the killer, and also the kills are, and also
or just ticking some stereotype box.
Yeah. And also the kills aren't enjoyable or inventive in any way, then I'm just like, just so like meh about it all, And that's why I enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street, because at least then there's the creativity of like the dreamscapes that Freddy exists in.
The world building of Nightmare on Elm Street is epic.
Yeah.
Just the conceptually it was incredible, whilst still being a slasher. So it's possible.
This is probably like blasphemy, but to me, actually, you take Michael Myers, you take Jason, and it's just large guy in mask with weapon with tragic backstory, and that's it.
Yeah,
they're just so interchangeable, yeah. I
agree to a point. I have a lot of enduring love for the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but I love the first one because in my eyes, John Carpenter has made very few missteps, at least prior to 1998. Vampires is great. That is the hill I will die on. But yeah, the first Halloween was kind of... It was one of the first. It was certainly like the biggest to do that at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, and I am being a bit facetious because ultimately those are the films that made the mold, right? So prior to that, there weren't really many films doing that sort of thing. And
I think it's almost kind of I 100% understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying I disagree with you, but what I will say, I think it's almost a little bit unfair to hold them to the same sort of barometer because there was fuck all else at the time. Certainly in 1978.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I am being a bit facetious about it all. But that's just. But then arguably even today, it's still the same traps that.
Oh yeah.
That kind of film companies are falling into. It's a killer with a disguised identity somehow.
Yeah.
With a weapon of some description, killing people who you don't care about. Like, I've just never got that.
That's why I kind of have a lot of love for these like postmodern slashers that have a gimmick as well.
Yeah.
Like stuff like Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, Happy Death Day. They've all got masked killers, but there's a lot more to the film than just that.
Yeah, and I will always enjoy those films more because there is something to actually engage with. But I've just always felt like if you've seen one slasher, you've seen kind of them all. And again, I know that's a bit, I'm exaggerating for effect, but yeah, I just feel like if you're gonna do a film that is echoing other films or like aping other films somehow, then at least make it different, at least make it enjoyable, or give it some sort of something to for the audience to latch onto. Otherwise, what's the point in even watching it, right?
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you didn't enjoy this film.
I Not really.
Can you think of anything about this film that does make it in any way unique? Or do you think it is just
Unique.
absolutely riding the wave of those mid-80s cash cows? Because that's what they became, wasn't it? Slashers became a hit. They realised they could make a pretty decent return on a very small budget, and so they just churned them out ad nauseum. And this was right in the sweet spot of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no if you're having to think that hard.
I'm happy to have my mind changed, but
I'm not saying there is anything unique. I'm just asking.
I just can't really think of anything that isn't kind of already. I mean, even the big reveal at the end, and spoiler territory if you even care about that. Even the big reveal at the end is just Scooby-Doo.
Oh, it is 100% Scooby-Doo. This is Scooby-Doo for adults, yeah.
Like, pull the mask off, and he's like, "Oh, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for your meddlesome kids." Like,
yeah, this film 100% would have been improved with a dog,
as most films often are.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Scooby-Doo analysis. One thing I will say that you might find controversial,
okay, no, go for it,
is. And this is a slight spoiler for a film that we're covering in a month or two.
Okay.
Is I feel like you have to concede something, because without films like this, Cabin in the Woods wouldn't exist.
Yes.
And we know how much you love Cabin in the Woods.
For a film that we might be covering. I wonder what that could be.
One that Phil's been fucking harping on about for years now.
Love it. Yeah, no, and I see that. But again, it gave a different twist to it. It wasn't just a slasher.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I'm not for a second comparing the two. I'm just saying, without these films that created the mold for Cabin in the Woods to break and shake up, then it wouldn't have existed.
And I can see that, but it doesn't make me enjoy them anymore.
I'm not trying to look. This is one of those scenarios where I'm absolutely not going to waste my time trying to change your mind. I get that.
Yeah.
But I just think maybe you have to concede a little bit in how influential they were. Like, they had to create that cookie cutter for films like postmodern horror to like smash it to bits and rebuild it.
For sure, yeah. No, I fully agree, and those are the films I do enjoy because it's because of how self-reflexive they are, because of how much. Attention the writers have paid to that genre, and how much they're wanting to do something different and just explore something else,
Yeah. I mean, this basically had everything in the setup beside the Harbinger of Doom.
I know, yeah.
It was pretty identikit, wasn't it?
Yep.
I did think it was funny where we meet these characters in the RV and we get a sense of who they are. And they are all absolute, just stock, off the rack. Oh, she's the slutty one. Oh, she's the sensible one. Mm-hmm. He's the clown. Like, it was so off the rack. It was unreal. It was the hot topic of characters. One thing I couldn't get past, and I don't know her name, this will not surprise you. The blonde who had like the southern accent.
Sure. I'll say yes, and hopefully I'll work out who you're talking about when you start talking about her.
Well, she was the one who was skanking
for
a start, doing the workout.
Yeah.
But I get the impression they were sort of going for this like soft, oh, I'm just a southern belle, like kind of thing. But what I heard was Bobby from King of the Hill. Every time she opened it was so bad. Every time she opened her mouth, I was just like, that's my purse. You don't know me. It was so weird and incongruous. And I couldn't tell if it was dubbed sometimes. It was just bizarre. What a strange choice.
I mean, the dubbing would be an odd choice because the cast are
American, yeah.
Right? So it's not as
there
if
was
it's
there was definitely some dubbing.
Maybe it's just because of naff.
Cheap.
Foley or something, yeah. That too.
But yeah, that really cracked me up. If you shut your eyes, it's just like, oh my God, it's Bobby. No. And she's supposed to be sexy as well. Somewhat ruined.
Yep.
Go on.
No, well, one thing I did, the only character I did like, and I think I might get some flack for this because in the reviews I've seen of this character was slated as being a particularly egregious example of his stereotype, but I actually quite enjoyed Sid.
Which one was Sid?
The clown.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and like he was, I felt like it was totally weird because he felt like he was in another film. He was in his own film and everyone else was in their film. But he was just far more engaging to watch, and I kind of enjoyed it.
I could see what you mean. It was like they sort of like I'm also surprised there's a lot of love for that character, if I'm being perfectly honest. Or I'm surprised that there's any love for any of the characters, I guess.
That's the thing. I just thought they were all, aside from that, they were all just unforgettable. But actually, the actor playing Sydney and his lines, at least there was something a bit more engaging there.
I guess so.
Even if it's silly and comic. Like, even if it's very throwaway. There's nothing of meat there, of substance.
No, it was basically like they'd just given him a tape of John Belushi and gone, do that.
Yeah.
Be that guy. We can't afford him.
And actually, I think if the entire film had that same sort of vibe, I would have actually enjoyed it a lot more, I think. But other than that, it just took itself so seriously. You know?
Also, John Belushi was dead by then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oops.
More importantly. Yeah,
he's expensive and also dead, which, you know, presumably you could tell.
Diagnosed by Dr. Olsen. With his stethoscope and head mirror. He's got a white coat on, man. He looks legit. That's enough for me.
That's it. That's all you need.
Right, so...
Medical school is just a front. It's just a pretend. You've just got to...
It is. They spend 7 years dossing around. They give you the white coat and go, shh, don't tell anyone else.
No one would take them seriously otherwise. If they go through 7 years of training or whatever, then yeah, like, of course you're important and know your stuff.
Yeah.
Power's in the coat and the mirror.
Don't forget the stethoscope.
The stethoscope.
For diagnosing dead people. How else are you going to check for the heartbeat?
Well, exactly.
Come on, Phil.
I've brought shame upon my family.
This is doctor school day one stuff. Arguably, that's the only day that's important. So this cast of rogues in the RV, this is why I had to ask. They stop and they pick up what I guess is a hitchhiker. And then there's some dialogue, which some of it went in and out. I don't know. He said some stuff. And then they arrive at his parents' cabin, which is where there was a murder previously. And there's some waffle about a shaman.
Yep.
And an Indian burial ground. It's always a fucking Indian burial ground. God damn it, white people. Leave them to it. Stop building houses on Indian burial grounds. Have you not seen Poltergeist? It never goes well. It never goes well. And then we meet his parents, one of whom is David Hess, who is not a very nice man.
Nope.
What a shock. Was David Hess ever hired to play like the romantic lead or just like a nice dad?
I can't say I'm that familiar with his work, to be honest. I know him from 2 films now.
I've seen him in at least 4 things.
Okay.
And he's been like pretty vile in all of them. He's always the villain. Mm-hmm. But apparently he was lovely in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so maybe that was just like an outlet for him.
Something at least.
He plays like quite a convincing villain, though.
He does.
I will say.
He does, to be fair.
He's quite a scary man. He's quite an imposing dude. And very distinctive looking.
That is a very polite way of putting it.
Well, you know what they say. Sarah's very diplomatic. Nobody's ever said that. What do you mean polite? Right. I'm going to take offence here. He looks like my dad. What are you trying to say, Phil? Did you just call my dad ugly?
I have.
Is that what you just said?
This is entirely news to me. I never heard your dad being compared to David Hess.
I can see it. It's mostly the hair, if I'm honest. My dad also used to get called the man from Del Monte and David Dickinson. It's all about the hair. Anyway, my dad never played a nasty man in a horror film, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't think my father is David Hess.
That is a relief.
That would be a weird thing to find out, wouldn't it?
So, Ben.
Ben. I genuinely didn't know if they knew him previously. Because there was like a weird over-familiarity there. Obviously, the dialogue clued me in.
Yeah.
But there was like a weird over-familiarity. And then he was just like, oh, Mum, Dad, it's all right if all of these people stay here, right? That I just met.
Uh-huh.
Is it all right?
In a
seems
campsite
really
that's been
weird.
closed for years because of the death.
That seemed super odd to me.
Yeah. Well, you got to set it up somehow, right?
Was there not a better way?
I'm sure. I never said it was good. I said it was a way.
I think that was like the biggest stretch in terms of believability.
That was the biggest stretch.
Yeah, that anybody's parents would have gone, sure, let them stay for free. That John Belushi-looking motherfucker looks particularly rowdy. Don't let him in cabin 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just not feasible.
I feel... What? There are so many characters in this movie, Sarah.
I kept losing track. This is why I couldn't remember any names.
There's an entire, 6, 7 people in the RV that join, but then also an entire other family just show up as well and become part of the movie.
Yeah. Do you know what the actual body count is?
What is it?
13.
13 people died.
Lucky number 13. I couldn't tell you who died and how they died.
No.
And I don't care to.
That's the thing. There's just... If the deaths were fun, then fine. I'd actually enjoy it, and there'd be something to enjoy. But I just, like you say, I just can't remember. The one I remember is the trap. There's a whole thing about the guy who owns the land setting up traps, and he gets told off by the policeman. The policeman goes, no, someone's going to get hurt. And he goes, fuck you, it's my land. I can do what I want. And then someone gets hurt in the trap.
Is that the guy who falls down the hill?
Yeah.
Hot rod style.
Die.
Because that's all that was going through my mind.
I think he's running towards Sissy, maybe, who is running away from Robert. Maybe. It's after Robert's got injured or something, and he's
right,
limping.
I don't
around
know who's
the forest.
Robert.
Is it Robert? Robert is is David Hess, isn't it?
Sure. Yes, Robert Ritchie.
There we go.
Sure.
I paid attention.
You did far more than I did, yeah. But yeah, all I was thinking during that scene was just after punch dancing out my rage in a wooded glen and suffering a long and painful fall. Just when he goes arse over tit over the cliff, I expected some sort of audio like, ah!
See, now I just want to watch Hot Rod again.
Should we go away and come back and watch Hot Rod?
Let's do that. But that's the only death that stood out.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you, was it a knife that they were using to kill, the killer was using?
It was a knife sometimes, and I feel like it was a machete at others.
I don't know.
Maybe the shaman was dual wielding.
Maybe.
And we just didn't notice. In which case, how did he put his mask on? So many questions.
See, it's so unrealistic, this film. So unrealistic.
There was another death that I remember, and that was when the mirror gets smashed out and the girl gets pulled through the mirror hole.
True. Yeah.
That's about it.
I think that's part of the reason why it's so tough to remember all the characters, because there are so many and they're so interchangeable.
Question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Every time I say that, you get worried.
Let's talk about your thing.
Sorry, we will come back to that. I promise.
Okay.
I promise. Obviously, this is not just a slasher; it is an Italian slasher. So some might call it a like giallo meets slasher, which I guess is true in some regard. Like there are some tropes of the giallo. It's not a giallo film, even if it is scored by some of Goblin. But it's the bright red blood.
Yeah.
That was such a huge thing in that era, and particularly in Italian horror movies. Is that a stylistic choice? Or is that just what Italian people's blood looks like because they eat so much tomato sauce?
I was going to say, see, that's what I was thinking. But then you kind of carried on talking, and I was like, no, that wasn't what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching this film.
Is it a stylistic choice or is it a budget thing? Was going to be my question, but no, it wasn't because they're Italian.
Is that just what Italian people's blood looks like?
Next time I talk to an Italian person, I will ask.
I don't know if we had any Italian listeners, but I think we've just.
If we have,
we can
I'm sure
kiss
we don't
them
anymore.
goodbye. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, I've always assumed it's just like a budget thing. Like, it's just some easy to make red liquid that, yeah, it's fine, it'll do. I've never really thought that it's a conscious decision to have this thing that looks like a very specific version of blood.
It's very lurid.
Yep.
But obviously it isn't just specific to Italian horror films. It was very prevalent in them. But with reference to another 70s film that we covered, it features quite heavily in Don't Look Now.
Yes.
Which, while set in Italy, is not an Italian film.
True.
So I wasn't sure if it was like a budget thing or a stylistic choice or perhaps something to do with the filming techniques that just meant realistic looking blood wouldn't be picked up on camera quite as well.
I mean, it could be any number of those things.
It's intriguing though. I find it fascinating. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. There has to be a definitive reason.
Sure, yeah, for sure.
I will share it on our social media when I find out.
Or if any of you guys know, feel free to drop us a message.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Educate us.
Yeah.
We need it. We've not got time to go to doctor school for 7 years. Drop some knowledge in the comments.
I mean, you'd find out, right? If you went to doctor school, you'd find out why Italian blood looks the way it does.
Yeah. That's day 2.
Day 1 is, here's your stethoscope, coat and mirror.
Yep.
Day 2 is, here's what Italian blood looks like. Day 3 is, here's how to tell if someone's dead.
Yep.
And then
day 4 is, here's how to tell if they're dead but reanimated.
And then that's it. Yeah, the rest of the 6 years and 360 days is just do whatever you want, really.
Just dossing, yeah. Sounds great. Apart from all the debt.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
But you make that back when you get a sweet gig as a doctor at a campground.
Oh, what is this film, Sarah?
I don't know. What is it with men slapping women in the 70s and 80s in films?
God,
was that ever acceptable?
I mean, I wouldn't say acceptable. I think it was tolerated.
What was that? Was that the Calvin Harris song? It was tolerated in the 80s.
Sure, let's say yes.
I know it's something that was taken the piss out of in Garth Marenghi, but I don't think it was until I watched Garth Marenghi that I realised how heavy it features in films from the 70s and 80s, particularly genre films.
Yeah, well, you think about Airplane as well. They ripped into it. They had that whole sequence where this woman's hysterical in her seat, and just a queue of people are just lining up to
give her a slap.
Some sense into her.
That's nuts. That's nuts. I know people who are like, we don't need feminism. Yeah, they're crazy. We do need feminism. However, it's important to recognise how far we've come.
Yes, this is true.
This is no longer a thing. Thank fuck.
It's funny you should mention that whole slapping thing though, and I presume you're talking about towards the end when Robert's confronting his wife for cheating. Is that right? Or are you thinking of a different moment?
Indiscretion.
Indiscretion, yeah. It's just because, again, that's a very heavy scene. You know, and it didn't fit anything else in the film. Totally, you know. I just thought that was...
Well, there's a couple of moments, actually, with the parents that are quite tonally weird compared to... Because the rest of it is just, like, campground slasher.
Yeah, exactly.
And then... like this weird family dynamic with the cheating wife, and then the flashback right near the end where Ben, I remembered her name.
There you go.
You see Ben as a child witnessing his mum having an affair. Like he sees his mum full on getting penetrated by somebody who isn't his dad.
Yep.
Which would have scarred anyone for life at that age. And she's just like, oh, don't tell anyone though. Otherwise the shaman will come and get you or something. And I'm just like, you really want to scar your child twice in one night?
Yeah.
Are you rich? Because that therapy's going to cost you.
I mean, it certainly cost her.
It did, in ways she did not anticipate.
This is a dumb film, Sarah.
It is a really dumb film, and I'm not going to apologise for it.
This is your fault.
Okay.
You picked it.
Okay, I'll accept that.
What did you think of the magical severed leg?
Wait, what? Explain yourself.
There's a scene, I can't even remember which character it was because, like I said, they're all the same character, really.
Gerald.
Sure. He walks in and sees a woman's leg in the bed. This is in the RV.
Oh, yep.
And there is clear vision of this woman moving around and writhing around in bed, and then it cuts to, oh, by the way, the leg is a severed leg.
Yeah. So my take on this is that he, you didn't see it because it was needless exposition. He took mushrooms just before he went in the RV. So he's having a whale of a time, just hallucinating away. And it's not...
I think that makes the entire film make far more sense.
Right? Let me have this. It's canon now. That guy's off his tits.
Okay. I'm down with that.
He's made up the shaman. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with it. Let's ride with that.
Why not?
Can we please talk about Bobby Hill's workout?
Go on then.
Because I sent everyone I know a video clip of that after I watched it last night, just saying, I think I've found my new workout regime.
It was so 80s, wasn't it?
What was it? Jane Fonda could never, would never.
Told you she was skanking. She's straight up listening to some ska music and skanking away.
That would make far more sense. Maybe, is she also on mushrooms?
I think, let's just say everyone is.
Everyone's on mushrooms. Okay. What I will say is that I got about halfway through the film before I realised who had done the score.
Okay.
And I was like, why? What does the score remind me of? And then there was a moment of like, oh yeah, every 80s slasher movie ever. Some of it, sorry, Claudio, if that is in fact your real name, hella derivative in places. Potentially derivative of his own work, because he's probably scored half the films I'm comparing it to.
Did you?
I'm not saying I didn't like it. Carry on.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm done.
I don't know if you happen to have the subtitles on, but
I didn't.
I think it goes to show the level of care that they put into actually like digitizing this film.
Is it none?
Well, so here's the thing. There's a scene towards the end where one of the characters is revving a chainsaw. And the subtitles just read, motorcycle revving.
close.
Like someone's who wrote this, and they're not paying attention to the film. They're just typing what they hear, and that's it. Yeah, it's a motorcycle. Fine, why not?
It would have been far funnier if the subtitles had just read. Like, how's that spelled?
There was also another line, and I don't know whether it was just it didn't make complete sense, or whether it was just the subtitles messing up. One of the characters apparently said, according to the subtitles, Shaman belongs in the Yeti and all that other fixin'. And like, is that English?
Fixin'?
That is what the subtitle said. I
would have said fiction.
Oh, maybe.
Like he's a made-up creation like Yetis.
I can see that. Like, I had to rewind that scene. I'm like, because this is before the motorcycle incident, so
right.
The motorcycle / chainsaw incident, and so I was like fully on board with the subtitles being entirely accurate to the film, and I just couldn't make heads or tails of that sentence. Like all the words were English, but what?
It's got to be fiction, right?
But yeah, it belongs like with Yeti and all the other fiction. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, the subtitle said 100% said fixing.
Oh, now I want to rewatch it with the subtitles on.
There was plenty of moments where it just read inaudible.
Yeah, I bet. Do you think it was just like one dude who was typing everything out and just like lost the will to live towards the end? Or do you think it was auto-generated?
I did wonder. I reckon it's typed up.
And they were just like, I fucking don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It sounds like fixing, that'll do.
Because, I mean, like, even YouTube with their, like, auto-generated captions isn't particularly good at doing grammar and stuff like that, right?
Oh, some of those are so far off the mark.
Yeah, so if someone's written that, I think they just got to a point where they just didn't care anymore.
Well,
yeah,
maybe
it's close enough, fine.
Maybe we're being too mean. They were probably Italian. English probably wasn't their first language. Maybe that made perfect sense to them.
Right, but they know what a chainsaw is, right?
And a Yeti.
They can see, if they see a chainsaw, I mean, unless the Italian word for chainsaw is motorcycle. Literally, like, and it happened twice with it. There was motorcycle revving, and then something like motorcycle roaring. Like immediately after.
Did chainsaws roar?
I didn't note down the exact phrasing, but like two separate occasions within, a moment of each other.
Oh my God, this film.
They refer to the chainsaw as a motorcycle. I'm like, well, if you don't care, I don't care either.
I feel like the subtitles would add an extra element of comedy. Speaking of, I just want to talk about how the guy trying to escape the tent was actual comedy gold. How many zips were on that tent? I just kept unzipping and unzipping and like what? How many tents did you put around yourself, sir?
You've got to be safe. Got to keep them safe from the shaman, right?
And the Yetis.
Yeah, everyone knows Yetis can't work zips.
But shamans don't need them because they can stab through.
Watch Willow Creek and tell me I'm wrong. Don't remember that Yeti opening up the zip. That's all I'm saying.
Always got to be right, haven't you?
Yeah, on what Yetis can undo zips.
That's
Phil's
what they say.
Again.
Phil, Yeti expert. Is that day 5 of Doctor School?
Like just a separate like module that deals with an entirely different subject.
Yeah, day 5 is cryptids. This sounds like a school I want to go to.
I want to learn about cryptids. Yeah, tell me that.
Right?
Tell me all that stuff.
I got a targeted ad on Instagram recently for a course about cryptids.
Really?
And I've never felt more seen. Couldn't afford it.
I just report all of I hide all the ads and say they're not relevant. So every ad I get on Instagram is just the most random thing. I just want sooner or later, I want them to go, you know what? Advertising doesn't work for Phil. Let's just stop.
I think you might be waiting a long time for that to happen.
Literally every advert. Hide.
Good Lord.
This is not relevant to me.
Start marking them as offensive and see what happens.
I think I had an advert for the Tory party and I reported that as offensive.
That is offensive, yeah. Oh no. One note that I did make, which I stand by, is about 3/4 of the way through the film, most of the characters are still very unconcerned about all of their missing friends. They're just carrying on as normal. Why?
my fourth note, so it's, towards the start of the film, is just in capital letters, react appropriately.
Oh yeah, nobody reacts appropriately in this. Just
I can't even tell you what that was actually like in reference to, but I think
it could be any number
it says
of things.
a lot, doesn't it, really?
Oh God. That's so to sort of steer us towards the climax of the film, if you can even call it that, most people are dead at this point. We learn more about the relationship and the indiscretions between Robert and his wife, and she thinks she's killed him.
Yep.
But she hasn't. And then I'm not really sure what happened. I all got very confused. But one thing I did think, though, was like, in fairness, a really good time to bump off your violent husband is when there's a killer doing the rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, can see that logic.
If ever I'm at a campground and there's a serial killer, I might use that as an excuse.
I mean, fair, but do you think they just like assumed that everyone was killed by the same person? Is that okay? That's
the logic I'm working with.
Okay.
And I'll just be like, it was that guy. He was on mushrooms.
Forensic evidence be damned. Let's just there's a killer on the loose. These people have been killed. It must be the same person.
You underestimate the sheer amount of CSI that I've seen.
Which, as we know, is entirely accurate in the way it portrays forensic science in police work.
I know what I'm doing. I know what luminol is. I listen to nothing but true crime podcasts. I can learn from other people's mistakes. I won't go bragging to the FBI 30 years after the fact.
It's a good start, isn't it?
Sending anonymous notes, you fucking amateurs. Explain the end to me, please.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
So
please.
I think this is how it happens.
I think I just
that Ben was the one, having been traumatized by something that I didn't care enough to remember. His parents being unfaithful.
And then his mum's like, if you tell anyone, the shaman will get you.
Yeah, it was like, if you tell something, your dad will tell the shaman, and the shaman will kill you.
Bad parenting.
He basically becomes the shaman and kills people. I think
that mask was dodgy as hell.
It was. But then also there is an actual shaman, right?
Well, that's what I didn't really understand. I mean, I figured out that he was doing the killings, but what?
Because he must have done, like, because when he witnessed the murder, I mean, that's part of the trauma, right? He had this whole like infidelity thing going on, but also saw the death 15 years prior that caused the campground to be closed.
Yeah, and had like some sort of psychotic
like
break.
that moment, those like 5 seconds were literally the entire purpose of that introductory 10 minutes of film. Like, that's where it becomes relevant. Okay, I got you now.
I'm tired.
I know, right?
Remake idea.
Okay.
Instead of a shaman, it's the shaman.
Okay.
The 90s dance act.
That would be a very different movie.
And they murder people with tambourines.
That would be a more fun movie, I must say.
What did you think of this then, Phil?
Desperately trying to like claw for things to say before we wrap up.
I think I'm pretty much done on this movie. I just want to hear your final thoughts now.
This is a particularly egregious example of bad slasher movies, and I think it's a bit of a shame because Cannibal Holocaust. Don't, Sarah. How have we got?
Bit of a shame, and
how have we got through 1 hour and 5 minutes without making a pun? We were so close, Sarah. So close.
I squeaked one in there. I'm so sorry.
It was a shame, and that Deodato was obviously Cannibal Holocaust is a good movie, and it shows that he can do movies that have a message and have something to say.
Wait. It's not only a good movie, it's an innovative movie.
Yeah, and it indeed, changed the course of horror, right?
And then this.
I'm just like, what happened? Was it? I guess it was a flash in the pan for him, really. But then I'm not sure it is because
he's made a couple of other good movies.
I'm not super familiar with his kind of filmography, so I'm probably being unfairly cruel, but he clearly can make films that have thought and effort put into them. Because there was a lot to say with as we found out with the episode on Cannibal Holocaust. There's a lot that film says and explores, a lot of themes it explores.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just so mindless and by the numbers.
He has made a few good films. What I will say is that I think this is more indicative of his overall output.
Yeah.
I think you might be right in that things like Cannibal Holocaust and House on the Edge of the Park were maybe not flukes, but certainly his peak.
Yeah.
And he's a director that basically concentrated on nothing but exploitation pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this just sort of fits neatly into that. This is his take on the shitty 80s slasher, I guess.
But yeah, I just feel like it just seems it's such an odd thing to happen because you would have expected maybe just got bored of it and started phoning it in, but you would have expected a director who does pay attention to the films he makes and has care in the way they were crafted and what they had to say. You would have expected that to become a bit of a hallmark for a director, right?
You would hope, yeah.
But this is literally the polar opposite of something like Cannibal Holocaust, which, while the film is a hard watch, like we've explored, it has something to say.
Yeah,
has a theme, an idea to explore.
I mean, he started making films in 1964, so even by the time Cannibal Holocaust came out, he'd kind of he was a seasoned filmmaker. He'd made quite a lot of pictures, so he'd honed his talents, and then sort of 1980, I don't know, maybe like 1979 to perhaps 1984 is when he did his best work, and then either side of that is just
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe throwing it back to last week, Body Count is Deodato's Southland Tales. The follow-up that nobody needed.
But yeah, I mean, like, just to final thoughts. I mean, I think I've said enough, to be honest. There's just nothing that this film does that makes it particularly interesting for me to watch. Everything seems contrived and stealing things from other films and doing it worse, or even media, like the whole reveal at the end. They literally pulled the mask off to reveal who he was. Like that is Scooby-Doo all over. And Scooby-Doo is a kids show. Like it's not some niche thing that no one's seen. No. It's one of the most popular cartoons that has been running for decades. And
I guess maybe then the thing they thought they were doing differently was kind of go, oh, but there's a real shaman too. You thought.
Yeah, but then that just strikes me as like the cliched fake out at the end of a slasher movie. Or
I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's of any sort of quality.
But you'd have expected them to avoid, not to avoid it per se, but like if that was an important thing they were trying to say, then they could have done it in a much better way than having that like last scene twist where you reveal that maybe whatever it is that happens in a slasher movie, right?
Yeah.
It just
I am going to surprise you now.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Of course you did, Sarah. Of course you did.
It's shit. Don't get me wrong. This film is a bag of shit. But I had a really good time with it.
Yeah.
I think even at... It's 123 minutes?
Yep.
It's still a bit long.
Yep.
It could have done with being a bit shorter. I mean, firstly, get rid of the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Job done. And yes, the kills were pretty uninventive. None of the characters were particularly memorable. There's not a lot about it that stands out. But I don't know. To me, it's like a little bit more than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Which I realise is quite strange given that we've just torn this film apart for an hour. But sometimes, this is just testament to the fact that you do not like slashers and I do like slashers.
Yeah.
This is what it boils down to. Even when it's shit, even when it's predictable as all hell, it is a comfort blanket in a film.
And that's the thing,
sometimes
right?
That's all I want.
Yeah, and I think actually we have. I know where that comes from because I think I have a similar attitude towards kind of more supernatural, paranormal horror movies. And again, like if a supernatural movie is terrible, you will call it out as such. Whereas I, probably am more forgiving of it and more tolerant of it because of just the kind of themes.
You like what you like,
yeah, for sure. But I can certainly see where you're coming from, right?
Yeah. But this is not me saying anything else than this is a bag of shit.
Yeah.
do not mistake that for a good review. I don't know. I just think there is definitely stuff to enjoy here. It's not one I would recommend to most people, but to slasher fans, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. That's the thing, isn't it? Because a lot of slashers are fairly by the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you willingly watch these, it's because you enjoy the fact they're by the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And want to, like you say, watch a film you're entirely familiar with. You maybe feel like you've watched before because it's so formulaic.
So predictable. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I would say that when you kind of consume this sort of stuff all the time, you do become very well versed in the subgenre. So actually, it's quite neat to find one, like a hidden one.
Yeah. Like
I'd read about this. It had been mentioned briefly in a book about slashers that I had, but I'd never seen it. And there are a few that just don't get talked about very much. I know back when Jamie and I did the podcast years and years and years ago, we used to do like themed months.
Yep.
And we did a whole month that was like standalone slashers, and it was slashers that hadn't had a remake, a reboot, or a sequel.
Okay.
They're so few and far between. It was
really?
It was really hard to find them.
Yeah.
But this is one. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think it's odd that it is so little known just because it is Deodato that directed it. And within the horror community, that's a name that maybe not that director, but everyone will have heard of Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, that definitely carries some weight.
You know. And so the fact that it is this film that is really hard to get hold of and fairly little known, and it's
never
quite a surprise.
had a DVD or Blu-ray release.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nuts.
Exactly.
I'll be honest though, this is one reason that I have started collecting VHS though. And it's one reason I'm so reluctant to get rid of my physical media, because I think this is increasingly going to happen now in the digital age. Stuff already is not getting a release.
Yeah.
There are so many films like The Devil's Candy I really want to own. It's not been released, not in this country anyway. And I just think that's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
And there are going to be more films that slip through the cracks and end up genuinely lost. And that makes me so sad.
Yeah. I guess with the advent of like streaming services, it's it's a lot easier to be. What am I saying? No, ignore me.
I don't know. Are you on mushrooms?
Apparently. I was going to say something and I realised I got halfway through saying it and realised I didn't really know what I was going to say. So
just some sort of gibberish about Yetis and fixins.
Probably.
I think that's probably a good time to end this then. I think unlike Donnie Darko, which taxed our brains, Body Count broke our brains in a very different way. I had fun.
It was fun.
I hope you did too.
Fun.
Well, we'll be back next week with a mini-sode, and we'll be back the week after with we don't know what yet, because we don't know if we're going to have a Rosie. So everybody cross their fingers collectively, because I hear that's how things work. That'll help, right?
Sure. He's hoping it's not another body count.
Everybody go and stare in the mirror and say Rosie 5 times, and hopefully she'll get better. And she'll rejoin us. But yeah, thank you. If you're still listening, thank you. You crazy, but thank you. We really appreciate you. If you like what we do, please consider giving us a like or a subscribe or a review on your platform of choice. Come and follow us on social media at Radio Gorepress on all of the main ones. I will link the Patreon in the blurb down below. And until next time, thank you so much for listening and stay spooky.
Bye-bye.